Let's add the control point here, that the little adjustment piece. This adjustment piece is basically a cylinder that's cutting in, and when we're going to perform the operation of combining, make a cut, but we're going to keep the tool because this tool is going to help us create whatever is cutting into the body. Make it a little smaller because they rarely, just for the illustration purposes, it needs to be slightly smaller. Chamfer this edge to make it look like it's been machined. Have that extra, extra reflex catching light. The inside is hexagonal pattern. It's like a hex key that you need to make the adjustments. Make the cut. Gonna make it deeper. To make it basically more detailed, I'm gonna go ahead and fillet the edges of this cut, because very rarely things in real life are this sharp. Like it's not a knife. Having these kind of intersections is not desirable, so you are better off leaving some more areas. I mean, we're not really worried about topology as much, like I said, for concepting, but for production, this may or may not matter. You know what? It actually looks like having a smaller opening here looks better. I can either Control Z all the way back and redo it, or I can adjust. Well, apparently I can already not adjust that sketch line that we had before, so I'm just gonna have to redo it. I'm gonna use the offset. This should look much better after we add in the fillet. So we're only cutting in this. And we're gonna add in this fillet. This just looks a little more believable, basically because of the tolerances. And we're gonna set this a little deeper. Oops, accidentally pressed undo. So we're gonna set this a little deeper into the surface. There you go. Well, as you can see, turns out that this whole thing is not straight. One way to do it, to fix this, would be, first of all, our whole body is not attached. So we can move this. And then, against all logic, we can actually move the openings. So for that, we need to select every face of that opening and keep it as move faces, not objects. We're gonna set the pivot for the movement direction, and we're gonna slide this like that. This is some black magic shit, it's kind of weird, but you have to slightly adjust your thinking. So this site also has basically the part that holds the lens, And for that, we will use more sketching. And it's easier to use more offsetting because it's just sketches. You know, you're free to do whatever you want here, just like that. Just like that, we created a body that's roughly copying the shell. And then of course we can just extend the bottom and make it merge. If the automatic offset doesn't work, if it's not able to do this basically, you can try creating new offset, and sometimes that will work. Or you can say right click extrude. That's why extrude exists. It's just adding more volume rather than changing the input of the existing one. And we're gonna say make new body because I don't want it to blend it with this one. I just want these and these to be together. It's roughly sitting somewhere in between there, in between the openings. So I was only moving a face. So moving the whole body to sit roughly here. It also looks like, looking at the reference right here, it looks like it's blending. So we will have to combine it and add some texture there. You can also see that these don't quite match, but I don't think they're supposed to. We can use this and this to join. And then we're going to use this new existing common edge for a fillet. Actually, before we go there, let's create an offset that's going to help us cut in the body. Just like that. I'm going to make the cut first, and then we're going to do the fillet. Fillet, different ways I can pronounce it. I'm not sure which is the right one. So this looks okay to me. I'm going to add the fillets on the bottom, just to help the shape flow better. I'm also going to treat this edge to another chamfer. It helps read the shape. And then we only need to basically have a piece of glass in there. For that, again, we can do an offset from an existing shape, or we can just sketch in a cube. None of that is really going to matter. We're just going to do an offset that's slightly bigger to mimic how the glass is actually sitting in there. Oops, I don't think that worked. So this face is going to be our glass. That's going to be the thickness. I'm not going to cut it yet. I'm going to create a new body. You can see that there's a slight intersection, and as I'm going to move it in, roughly over there, I'm going to right click, assign appearance. Say that this is going to be glass, just so I can see where it's sitting. I want this thing to be more or less in the center. It means that it needs to be actually thinner. Like that. So this is now looking more or less real. And we're gonna do another combine operation, make the cuts, but keep the tools. So now you see that this glass is actually cutting into that shape. It's just like in real world. And we're gonna add some chamfers to help sell the idea. As if the glass is actually sitting in there. Really, really doubt you're ever gonna see that. But hey, it's all in the detail, you know. We're even gonna add a fillet here as well to help it look better. And a little chamfer. So this is looking much, much better. Plus it looks super realistic because we actually took the time to figure out how exactly that's fitting in there. We're not going to bother with the texturing on this front face. It's hard to imagine what exactly is going on there, or like why this exists. I can only guess, but I actually have no idea. So if it somehow helps sell the idea that this is real, you know, if it's more believable that way, we can always edit. Sort of. We don't want to cut the screw, so be careful with that. In my case, I'm just spending a little more time on a little more detail to help explain the transition between the shapes. For gaming, this is just a weird thing to have, but for concepting, this may or may not help actually look better in terms of how it's transitioning. I think this was not equal, so that's why we have this weird cut in here. So we're just gonna fix one side. A lot of times, if you're stuck fixing little, little details like this, a lot of times you can just say fuck it and forget about it. Just like no one will ever see all those details that you're doing, so don't overdo details. Same thing goes for nobody's, or people are rarely gonna see the little fuck ups that you do. So that's good for now. In terms of the writing right here that says up, we can do that in a decal, or we have the sketch. We have the text option here, so we can try and doing that, or we can actually sketch it up. You can also import Illustrator files in here and turn them into sketches. Most of the time, I really don't bother with it. Let's just go ahead and figure out the rest. Just, continue working on the shapes until you get somewhere where it looks more believable. This chamfer doesn't exist in the design, but I feel like it looks better, so I'm just gonna drop it in. Why not? This doesn't necessarily look good. Military stuff looks better when it's angular. Just a personal opinion, I guess. Let's treat the edges here to make it look like they flow into each other properly, they need to be creating a little bit more of a gap. Just like that. Our mechanism of attaching it to the Picatinny rail needs to be slightly to the side because it's now clashing with the existing shell. In reality, it's only right next to it, so we naturally achieving some layering and some depth in terms of elements. There's also a release button right here on the bottom. We're gonna fake it. I'm not gonna spend too much time figuring it out, but all of these little details are only going to make the design a little more interesting. Not gonna do the cut yet. Combine it. Keep the tools. We need to press pull it, but it's gonna say new offset so that we preserve the cut. It's kind of intuitive at this point. I just know that this is gonna be better. And we're also attaching, this is like a release lever, so it has a little box attached to it like this. We only need to combine this and this, not keeping the tools, getting the common edge, turning it into a fillet, making this a fillet as well. And at this point I'm thinking it's probably not sticking out enough, so we can try and extend it like that. Help separate the top from the main thing, so just another chamfer to help catch the light. I'm also thinking it's not thick enough. If you think about it, that's, in terms of size, that's really thin. So press pull this down. It's breaking because of the chamfer, so we should press pull first. Always zoom out, check the level, the scale, level of details. This is more realistic. And then add the chamfer. It also has some grooves along this line, which we can do manually. We can do a pattern on the path. I'm just really not gonna worry about it for now.